Missing someone. Missing someone. Missing someone. Love with all your heart. Missing someone.
This is why you should always believe what your child says if anything is happening to them. This is my first time talking about it, but when I was about 11 or 12, I moved to Dominican Republic with my biological mother. Now, when I did move back, I didn't move back with my mother. My grandmother never wanted me to live with my mom. She always said that my mom just wasn't a good person, and that a good mother wouldn't leave their kid when they're 3 months old, which is what she did with me. So for a while, I lived with my uncle and his wife and, their 3 kids. When I turned about 15, my mom, she wanted me to move to her house with her and my 2 siblings. So my uncle was like, that's okay, she's 15 now. My mom had this creepy, 50-year-old friend that would always go to her house. She was friends with her and friends with her husband, and they always would spend time together. Now, this creepy friend would have a weird obsession with me making him coffee. He would not drink anyone else's coffee if it wasn't mine, or anyone else's hot chocolate if it wasn't coming from me. So one day, I don't even know when it was, but my mom gave him my phone number. So I had this little kind of Nokia phone. It wasn't even a flip phone. It was just one of those. It had the screen and the buttons. That's it. It's called an Alcatel. If you're Dominican, you probably know what it is. So one day I wake up to a text from him and he's like, hey, I'm here with your mom sitting down. Can you make me some coffee? And I wasn't feeling very, I don't know. I was weirded out of why she would give him my phone number, your 15-year-old daughter. So whatever, I made him coffee and he came and got it to my mom's house because I'm I just woke up, if you want to come and get it, come and get it. And when he came and got it, he gave me this weird hug where you just feel very uncomfortable. And I told my mom I am feeling very uncomfortable with this person. Do you guys know what she said? She said, do you really think a man like him, he was a very rich man. He had a couple businesses, a couple of plantain fields. She's do you really think a man his age is going to go after a black 15-year-old? This is why I've mentioned in a couple of my videos that I don't have a relationship with my mom, not because of this specific thing, but the way she treated me. Okay, I'm running out of time. Go to part 2. So after that, I'm okay. So fast forward, it was the World Cup and her husband invited her creepy friend over to watch the World Cup. Every single day it was on, he would be there having lunch, eating with us. So one day I wake up, he's there. My mom's husband is on the grill cooking something. My mom is working because we have a family business that she takes care of. And he calls me over. Mind you, I'm still in my pajamas. In Dominican Republic, I obviously wasn't wearing anything long. And he's come here, come sit on my lap. And I'm no. And I'm no, I have to do I have to do house chores. And he's it's fine, come sit on my lap. And I'm no, it's fine. And he's okay, can you make me some coffee then? And I make him the coffee and I bring him the coffee and he grabs me by the hand and tries to kiss me. Mind you, I'm 15 years old. So after that happened, how do I tell my mother that happened after I've already told her and she basically said, you're not good enough for him? So then it got to a point where I didn't even want to, be around my family if he was there because I was just so uncomfortable. And she would say, oh, don't pay attention to her. She's always in a bad mood. She's so samura, which in English means someone that's always quiet around people, blah blah blah. She's always said I'm samura, which it's kind of a slang word I want to say in Dominican Republic. So he would always text me you're so beautiful for a black girl, you're so exotic. He was from Spain, he wasn't Dominican. And he would be your lips look so beautiful, they look so soft, just so awkward. But till this day I never said anything to anyone because either way, if I did, no one was gonna believe me. Just always believe your kid, because even if I showed my mom the text messages, she would still find a way to say that it was my fault and that I was throwing myself at him.
Come on, how my Uber driver tried to kidnap me on my birthday. Okay, y'all, so today's story is my own. And thank you guys for 1 million followers. All right, y'all, let's get into it. Okay, so boom. About 2 years ago in 2019, I lived by myself in my own apartment. At this time, I was at the end of my lease and I was actually moving to another apartment. I had to do everything by myself because I had nobody to help me, so I had to go get a U-Haul truck. This was my first time using Uber because I have my own car. But to get to U-Haul, I had to Uber over there so I could get the truck and then go from apartment to apartment. My first Uber driver bringing me to the U-Haul truck was fine. I had no issues with him and it was pretty normal and fast. So once I was done with the U-Haul truck and I was done moving, I had to return the truck to its location. And then I had to Uber back to my apartment where my car was. Now this second Uber driver, this is where the issue comes in. Y'all, it was literally crazy. My life was at stake. Like for part two on how my Uber driver tried to kidnap me on my birthday. Okay, so boom, like I said, I returned my U-Haul truck and I waited for my Uber driver to come pick me up. When my Uber driver came to pick me up, right from the beginning, I knew something was off about him. Always trust your instincts. He was a little weird and off, but I told myself that it's only a 10-minute drive and it will be over soon. So I sat on the back of the car and I just stayed on my phone. You know, minding my business. And then the guy just started talking to me, like I guess he was trying to have small talk. But the weird thing is, I couldn't understand what he was saying. Yeah, I didn't know what he was saying, but I just thought he wanted to do small talk. So I just was like, oh yeah, yeah, oh, ooh, ah. But then all of a sudden he went off the path of my route. I was like, excuse me, you took the wrong turn. Then he turned back and looked at me and said, I think we're going exactly where we need to be. It gets worse. Like for part three. Part 3 on how my Uber driver tried to kidnap me on my birthday. Okay, so boom, like I said, he went off the path of my route. And I said, excuse me, you made the wrong turn. Then he turned around and looked at me and said, I think we're going exactly where we need to be. I still didn't get it and I looked confused and I was just like, just drop me off at this gas station here. And child, he locked the door. At that moment, my heart sank and I knew exactly what was going on. I was being kidnapped on my birthday. He locked all the doors and put child lock so I wouldn't be able to unlock and leave either. I was under pressure, but I knew I had to think fast and get out of this situation. Y'all, he was driving fast, but thank God he wasn't on a highway, so there was red lights. And I live in Miami, so traffic hour is real. I knew that once he stopped at a red light, that would be my only chance to get out this car. So here we go. We stopped at the red light and I took his head and bashed it into his steering wheel. He didn't see it coming, so I did it pretty easy. Running out of time, like for part 4. Part 4 on how my Uber driver tried to kidnap me on my birthday. Okay, so boom, like I said, he stopped at a red light and I took his head and started bashing it into the wheel. He didn't see it coming, so that's why I was able to overpower him at that moment. As I was bashing his head, I knew that his door was the only way I was able to get out because of the child lock. As I bashed his head, I unlocked the door and I literally sling my whole body to the front of the car and I was literally on top of him. Unlocked the door, opened it, and I just jumped out. He held on to one of my legs, so I ended up falling on the floor on the street. But at this point, everyone was looking and someone was coming to my rescue, so he just closed his door and locked it. And as soon as the light turned green, he bolted. I was bruised all over, like my arm, but mostly my knees. I went inside the gas station and I waited for my friend to come pick me up. Y'all, all this on my birthday ruined my whole day. But I say that to say this: be careful. Thank you guys for 1 mil.
Storytime of how I figured out that my sister was trying to kill me. So me and my sister were like best friends when we were little, but she was a very, very jealous person. So years and years go on, but her jealousy seems to start to grow. So I never really thought about it until I found out that she really wanted me dead. But throughout the years, she would do little things to get me hurt. For example, she pushed me off the top of our treehouse and I ended up breaking my arm. But every time I got hurt, my family would baby me and she would get even more mad. So at this time, we're about 16 years old, and I had to go in her room to get her laundry. And under her laundry, I found her diary, or journal, or whatever you call it. I was flipping through the pages, I found out some interesting and crazy things. Then one was named The Perfect Murder. What an original name. She had this big, huge dresser in her room. She went into a lot of detail about how she was going to kill me. But it stated that she was going to push the dresser on top of me and jump on it until I, then scream for help. I'm running out of time, like for part 2. Part 2 of how I found out that my sister was trying to kill me. Continuing on with the story, after I read what I read in her diary, I decided it was best to keep it to myself. So about a month and a half later, I start to think to myself and I'm like, okay, maybe she's not actually gonna do it. Y'all, I don't know why, but I was literally not scared that my sister was like about to kill me.
So about 2.5 months after I read what I read in her diary, she calls me into her room and in this fakest voice ever goes, "Sissy, why are you being so distant from me?" I just looked at her like she was crazy. Then she goes, "I know you read my diary." At that exact moment, she looked psycho. I don't know what I was thinking, but right after she said that, my reflex was to knock her out. So I knocked her out, then I stomped on her head. I called my mom into the room and read her the diary, or whatever the heck my sister put in there. Mind you, while I'm reading my mom this diary, she's still knocked out on the floor. My mom then continues to say she's going to put her in a mental hospital. So to this day, my sister's in a mental hospital, and if you're listening to this and you ever get out, please don't kill me. I'm actually living an amazing life right now.
The first story starts when I was 2. I don't remember it much, but my parents have told me this multiple times. We lived in this little white house. It was very old. My parents used to always hear me laughing and playing in my room with someone, but there was no one in my room. When they asked who I was talking to, I told them it was a little boy named Omar. They thought it was just an imaginary friend, but now that I think back on it, when I was 3 and 4, I did see someone. He was always very kind to me. I would play Barbies and he would play with me. He would draw me pictures. I would leave my books out for him so he could read while I was at preschool. I would tell him about my days and he would tell me about his. But things started to get really weird once my brother was born, and that is when my parents started to see him too. They believe that this is because he wanted to be the only little boy in the house. Stay tuned for part 2. Here is part 2 of the series of the little boy. When my brother was born, my parents used to sense and see the little boy as well. My mom used to feel his energy sitting in the rocking chair. My brother's mechanical toys used to just start making noise. He started to show up less and less in my room, and every time he would, he kind of scared me. He wasn't himself anymore. He was mad, angry, everything. My parents believe it's just because he wanted to be seen and he was lonely, and now that I had a little brother, I wasn't paying as much attention to the little boy. My mom would wake up to my brother crying in the middle of the night and go check on him, and she would sense something standing next to her. Weeks later, we moved out of that house due to a shooting in our backyard. My old nanny, who lived across the street, told us after we moved out, she would always see something in the window of my room.
On August 3rd, 2017, the bodies of a 69-year-old man and a 38-year-old man were found by a neighbor. The two of them seemed to have died while enjoying dinner together. When first investigating, police assumed they must have died of food poisoning. But when the toxicology report came back clear, that theory was thrown out the window. From there, it quickly turned into a homicide case, but who killed these two men and why? Police found no signs of forced entry and had no reason to believe that anyone would want them dead. After some time passed, doctors were finally able to determine what the cause of death was, and it wasn't at all what anyone was thinking. During their dinner together, the 69-year-old man bit off more than he could chew and began choking on a piece of steak. He could have easily been saved by the 38-year-old man, except for the fact that he was too busy dying from a heart attack that was triggered by seeing his lifelong friend slowly choking to death.